good morning everyone. I can't really see you because of the bright lights, but I believe you're there. So could you give me a wave from the back? If you can, oh, good, thank you very much, thank you. Okay, so this is my 15th year at Online Educa. So I hope you're going to indulge me with some reflection backwards as well as forwards. And I am truly delighted to have Aaron Porter with me representing students today. I know that you will all appreciate the critical importance of revolutionising learning for everyone in the 21st century. Those of you who heard yesterday morning's keynotes, they offered us reasons, motivations, for me enough to last my lifetime. But I do seek today to answer the question of why it is so hard going to change what we actually do, and why the amazing position we find ourselves in has achieved far lower outcomes than we might have hoped. And how can we make the necessary transformations in the future in a happier way? It's okay to have fun while you're doing it. Now, 2009 marks the 200th anniversary of the birth of Charles Darwin and the 150th anniversary of his book on the origin of species. Now, this included, of course, his theory of evolution by natural selection. And Darwin invoked the idea of the tree of life as a way to describe the relationships between all living things on Earth. Now, Sir David Attenborough, a great broadcaster and educationalist, attended my university, the University of Leicester, 50 years ago. Sir David's father was principal of the University College, and the Attenborough family lived on what is now our campus. So, in preparing my talk for you today, I was inspired by Sir David and his celebration and explanation of the tree of life. And I took that metaphor as a way of trying to tackle the thorny questions about creating the future for learning. And I sought first to understand our extraordinarily rich history. And here is my little tree. This is the tree of learning, as you can see. And I offer you this tree of learning for your consideration. This is, of course, a very ancient tree, which was around long before any of us, and will almost certainly outlive all of us. Well, maybe not Aaron, but the rest of us. Many, many species of learning are dependent on it, and you're going to hear more about them in this session. Everything we do today in education, we can trace back to earlier times. And at different times, a critical event has favoured or reduced the conditions that have shaped the future of education at that point. For example, learning has been a fundamental part of human experience since prehistory. The first evidence of what we would now rather cutely call dissemination began with cave drawings, some 30,000 BC. These were the seeds from which the tree of learning developed. Then there's more, of course, prior to 387 BC, apprenticeships. Heard about those again recently, haven't we? Were very important. Scribes taught scribes, masons taught masons, physicians taught physicians. And of course, this period also spawned Hippocrates, Socrates, and Plato. Then we moved to the classical education period from BC 387 to 799 AD. I'm being very specific here. This period gave us Aristotle and Archimedes. A colleague of mine, Derek Smith, an educational commentator from the University of Wales in Cardiff, calls the Library and Research Institute at Alexandria one of the two great wonders of the educational world. Anyone like to suggest what the other might be? No? Okay, we'll come to that. And from AD 800, the father of Europe, Charlemagne, took the throne of the Frankish Empire, and the Renaissance was ushered in. I think he'd be pretty pleased to see us 20 years in Berlin from the fall of the wall. The new emperor surrounded himself with scholars. Later, Erasmus of Rotterdam, hello Holland, was first presented ideas about study and what we might now call learning design or pedagogy. In the Enlightenment period, just as we now think so much about the nature of knowledge and how it impacts on learning and teaching, John Locke, the British empiricist, was highly influential. More recently, the modern history of education has been influenced by America's Ralph W. Tyler's Basic Principles of Instruction. He talked about curriculum in quite a modern way, really. So you get the idea of the roots that we come from. Just now, as we share the earth with the descendants of all the evolved animal groups, birds, reptiles, and insects, so we have a very wide diversity of learning, which of course still continues to be the most important way of both saving and developing our experiences. Now, at this point, the tiny seeds of the communication revolution and the growth of the internet is, of course, the other second wonder of the education world. And the bright rays of technology began to shine more and more strongly over the tree of learning, and the branches began to reach out towards the light. As time passed, they split into different groups, and each exploited this new environment that it found itself in all kinds of new ways. Each related group developed a little differently. Some species have become extinct. I won't ask you to name them now, but mostly learning is still very much alive and basking in the new techno shine. As more variations appeared, the tree of learning grew, became more diverse, each exploiting the environment of its time and context. I'm going to take a very quick look at each of those branches.